find that in learning the knowledge of Islam, people, they cannot stay alert, especially afternoon time. So I would really want us to know that the fact that we should not be feeling any sleepy right now, as we are still live, alhamdulillah, shukrillah. And I will really apologize for the fact that our audio is not good, as our network is usually a little bit not very much strong. So I'm very much sorry for that, and I apologize for that. I want to start by mentioning the fact that, as you can see in your monitor, that there is a PowerPoint here, alhamdulillah, and this PowerPoint, the link, it is available in the description below. You can go there and download it. We have that is alhamdulillah our archive store, where you find that we put all our stuff there, our audios there, and our video, not all videos there, but you find that some of the videos, only I think so only one of them, alhamdulillah, they are available. You can go there and download it. There's no any problem. It is for you to learn it, and you can also spread it to others. They all know any problem. So you can go there in the link below, and you can get this PowerPoint that is available in that monitor viewers. Alhamdulillah, you have to know that we are now part 11. Alhamdulillah, we started very much nicely with very many parts, but now we have reached part. So we started with part 8, talked about part 9, part 10, now part 11. Part 11, it is the contradictions in the Quran. And this contradiction in the Quran, you find that this is a very critical topic, as many of the people, they have discussed about it in lengthy discussion. And that's why tonight, inshallah, also we're gonna try our best to summarize it and not to make very much lengthy discussion on about it. So I will start with can go to the next slide, and we have there the introduction. We're gonna try to introduce this topic, and I will say that the Quran, it usually the Quran, as we mentioned before, that it challenges its readers that to find any errors in it if they do not believe it is really from God. So it challenges the audience, the fact that if there any error, to try to find if there's any error in it, to find that they will not get it, because of the fact that this Quran is from Allah Jal, and when a book, it is from Allah Jal, it is from divine origin, then you will not find it any error in it. So I find that it is mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, chapter number 4, and the verse is number 82, and it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا. In this verse of the glorious Quran, we learn that, will they not consider the Quran carefully? Had it been from other than Allah's Jal, they would have found many contradictions in it. And that is what Allah Jal is mentioning, the fact that this Quran, if you are thinking that this Quran it is from other than Allah's Jal, you would have find many contradictions in it. We usually have seen that there are other books that we read, and you may find that the other books that you read, there are contradiction in it. Okay, there are contradiction in it. And contradiction, what does that mean? Is that maybe you find that one verse is contradicting another verse. Okay, you find that in a novel, when there's a storybook, there usually sometimes are contradiction in it. A person, he may be good, and then you find that the end is bad. And if this is a contradiction in itself, the person is good at the beginning, how comes it becomes bad at the end? You know, is it something of an environment? No, it's just a story. But this story is, some people, they think that no, there is no problem in such kind of contradiction. Why? Because they think that, you know, the person was good, At the beginning, we find that at the end now the environment changed him, their friends changed him, and in the end they eventually led to what? To become a bad person. That is what they say. That is what they say. And that is the same way the people they have now considered. But they do not consider the same thing in the Quran. They do not consider the same thing in the Quran. That's why you find that there are critics in there. There are critics in there. So you can go back to the PowerPoint, alhamdulillah, and we say that there are the few apparent contradictions which are commonly mentioned by these critics. They are easily explained. Alhamdulillah, we are going to explain these critics again. That's why alhamdulillah we have about, I think so, not many of them. We're going to explain at least 2 of them inshallah, in trying to make it easy for people, because the seminar we don't want to make it very much long, inshallah. So we can go to the next slide, and if we go to the next slide, we find that we have case 1. We have case 1. Now case 1, what is it? What are we going to talk about? Here we are talking about there's one critic, and he said that this calling together or ripping apart in the process of creation of that heaven and the earth, they are fast apart, and you find that they are called to come together. And this is mentioned in as we know, Surah Fusilat. If you go to Surah Fusilat, it is talking about this thing, and inshallah I'll explain it. Okay, let's just read the statement which is in that PowerPoint. While in the other verse, which is then in Surah Anbiya, which we find that it is in chapter 21, and then verse which verse? Yeah. Okay, I find that when you're talking about the fact that in Surah Anbiya, chapter 21, verse number 30, it states that they were originally one piece and then they ripped apart. Now they say that that this thing there is a contradiction in it. Surah Fusilat and Surah Anbiya, they are contradicting one another, because one of them it is saying that they are calling are they calling together or are they ripping apart? That's the first question. You can say the critic, he is saying the first thing, that calling together or ripping apart. See in your PowerPoint, please see in your PowerPoint this point that they're saying calling together or ripping apart. That is what they're talking about. That is it calling together or ripping apart? Because we find that when we talk about calling together, calling together, it is in one verse, and then ripping apart is in another verse. So he's saying, is it calling together or is it ripping apart? Because this critic is saying that there's a contradiction in it. Okay, there's a contradiction in it. So inshallah, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try to explain to you in a way that is best. Bidnai ta'ala, inshallah, I'm going to start to explain first of the Surah Al-Fusilat, to try to explain to you and to try to first recite it, alhamdulillah, and then I'll try to translate it to you, bidnai ta'ala, inshallah. Then we'll go to the other surah and then we'll explain it. Okay, so I'll start with the Surah Anbiya. So first let us look at the text of each verse, and I will start with the verse 30 of Surah Al-Anbiya. And what does it say? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أولم ير الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهم. Now we'll stop here in the verse. What is it saying? The verse in Surah Al-Anbiya, it says that have not those who disbelieved known that the heavens and the earth, they were joined together, then I split them apart. So that is what Allah is saying in this verse. Now inshallah I'll go to Surah Al-Fusilat and I'll recite verse 11 and 12 of Surah Al-Fusilat. Okay? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ثم استوى إلى السماء وهي دخان فقال لها وللأرض ائتيا طوعا أو كرها قالتا أتينا طائعين فقضاهن سبع سماوات في يومين وأوحى في كل سماء أمرا. So in these verses of Surah Al-Fusilat, let me translate them. And it says, and he turned to the heaven when it was smoke, and said to it and the earth, come both of you, willingly or unwillingly, in which the both responded, we come in obedience. And he decreed that they become 7 heavens in 2 periods of time, and imparted unto each heaven its function. So the word here, which is thumma in Surah Al-Fusilat, find that this Arabic word here that we're using, it is thumma. It is a conjunction which you find that it generally indicates an order of events, but at other times it is used for a more abstract ordering. And Muhammad Asadi understood it not to be ordinal here, so he translated it as and you can see in a book there, As-Salik ila Awda al-Masalik, for an explanation of the meaning and the usage of that word, which is thumma. And also you can see in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 189, that word which is thumma, it is used. And also in Surah Al-An'am, which is chapter number 6, verse number 154, for the other example of its non-ordinal usage. So we can really find that there are some words in Arabic which are really used in a very different way than the way we may think. And consider this just only the word which is used here, which is thumma. And there is a way you can use in an ordinal way and in a non-ordinal way. Okay, so but we find that here he understood it is not used here as ordinal. Okay, it is non-ordinal here. Okay, now that is what I wanted to say. We have to now explain. Now I'm explaining these words, this contradiction here that you may think is a contradiction, but let us explain it so that you can understand it more in a better way. And you'll find that if there's any non-Muslim, we invite you to know that this deen of Islam, it teaches us to teach people the deen of Islam in a way that is best. So I'll start by saying that we have to be surprised that this critic is mentioned here, and this critic, it is educated in a American university, and you'll find also a contradiction between these two verses, considering that the dominant theory of cosmogony is taught in such university, it is the Big Bang theory. And according to the astronomers and the physicists, that they say that all the matter in the universe, it emerged from a state of extremely high density and temperature, which they split apart in an explosion that led to a rapid decrease in temperature and density, and this allowed for the formation of certain atomic nuclei. And they say that after a million years the universe was sufficiently cool for hydrogen and helium atoms to form, and after a few 100 million years, the fluctuations in the density in the expanding gas cloud, it led to an eventual separation into galaxies, and these clouds of gases in the galaxies then pulled together to form individual stars. This process, it is mentioned in the New Encyclopedia Britannica, volume number 16, page number 776 to 777. And of course, this scenario is highly speculative, but there are some observable features of the physical reality that support the broad outlines of the theory. We find that this explanation, which is mentioned in that encyclopedia. So let us first explain what I have talked about in this point. What I have mentioned here is that this critic is usually being taught in an American university, and they will say that there's a contradiction between the two verses of this Quran of Surah Fussilat, and they will say also there's a contradiction with Surah Al-Anbiya, and they don't know the fact that there's a theory that they usually even teach within that university in itself. They usually teach what we call Big Bang theory. They usually teach Big Bang theory. When we come to learn Big Bang theory, this is explicitly mentioned in the Quran, also Surah Al-Anbiya, the same verse that I've mentioned here. And the fact that according to these astronomers and even the physicists also, they say that all matter which is in the universe, it emerged from a state of extremely high density and temperature, and from that you find that they split apart in an explosion that led to a rapid decrease in temperature and density. So what I'm saying here is that is the very science part of it. When you come to the scientific part of understanding Big Bang theory, we find that there was that what we call that all this matter in the universe. How did it come up? All the matter in the universe, how did it come up? And it came up through what we call the extremely high density and temperature, and this is what it did, is that it split apart of an explosion. Okay, it's part in an explosion. And when you find that the matter, it came from the universe, matter came from the universe through the high density and temperature on the universe, and it came up with all of these things. What we have, the matter, and this led to a decrease now in the temperature and in that density. And when you have the decrease in that temperature and density, it allowed now the formation of atomic nuclei. And when we understand the fact that there is atomic nuclei, there is protons and the neutrons in it, but that is not what is required here, because of the fact that when they say that the sun, they say that many years after, like a million years after this universe, it was sufficiently now cool. It was very much cool now. It was very much, in a temperature which was very much low, and this coolness was good for the hydrogen and these helium atoms now to form. And when you have the hydrogen and these helium atoms, you find that they are used for many things. The hydrogen, it is used for the water, and together with that, you find that we have also helium atoms, which also used in other formation of other things. But you find that they mention again that after again a few hundred million years again after now, you find that here there was now the fluctuation in that density now in the expanding gas cloud. When the fluctuation in density, that means there's a when fluctuates, it means that it is increasing, and sometimes it is decreasing. It is increasing and then sometimes decreasing. That fluctuation in that expanding gas cloud, and this is what it led to the separation, to an eventual separation into galaxies. That is, now we got galaxies coming up, and the cloud of gas in the galaxies it then pulled together to form individual stars. This cloud of gas which is in the galaxy, what happened is that these pulled together now. They pulled together now to form individual stars, and that is how you find that Big Bang theory talk about. That is how we come to the fact that the creation it came about, how the galaxies were formed, how the stars were formed, how the other planets are formed, and that is the way it goes. And that's how the universe came up through the Big Bang theory, and that is how the scientists explain. That is what is being taught in also in many of the university, in many of the high schools, in primary schools, and many places they usually teach this Big Bang theory, and they say that it is just a theory. For the scientist, it is just a theory. Now, what we come here in the glorious Quran, we have to say that this model that we have talked about envision 2 stages in the process of creation. If you see this model that we have discussed here right now, there are 2 stages in the process of creation, and the first is an imaginable dense solid mass. That is the first thing. There's a very much solid, there's an unimaginable solid, dense solid mass, a very big solid mass. Okay, and the second now is that expanding cloud of high energy particle, which eventually it cooled enough to be called a gas cloud, from which now these galaxies they formed. As you know, there's this solid mass, it had high temperatures as we discussed, it formed that what we call the gas cloud, then these pulled together to form now the stars and galaxies they formed. So these 2 stages you have mentioned of the process of creation, the first which is an imaginable dense solid mass, and the second which is the expanding cloud of high energy particles, which you find that it eventually cooled to form the gas cloud, and this is how the 2 galaxies formed. These 2 things I mentioned here. The 2 Quranic passages it cited by this critic, it describes these 2 stages in the history of the universe. Neither passage it explicitly indicates which state comes first, but it is not far-fetched to suppose that there was an original compacted. Now when we find that the fact that here that this passage, that neither of this passage explicitly indicates which state comes first, but it is not far-stretched to suppose that there was an original compacted mass that was split asunder. Okay, there was a original compacted mass that was split asunder. That is what the verse of Surah Anbiya says, which led now to a gaseous smoke stage, and from which now the heavens then became differentiated, and that is what the second verse, which is Surah Fussilat, says. If we go back, we find that Surah Anbiya says that have not those who disbelieved known that the heavens and the earth they were joined together, then I split them apart. Okay, and the Surah Fussilat say that and he turned to the heaven, and when it was smoke, and say to it, the earth come both of you willingly or unwillingly, to their son we come to obedience, and you find that is now find that they come together. And that's what we are talking about. The 2 stages it happened. The first stage you find that the dense solid mass. The second stage now you find that become now what called the splitting. Okay, so there's come together, they're splitting, they come together and splitting, something like that. That is mentioned, and you find that there is a stage in it. It is what I'm explaining here. There is a stage in it. Okay, that is what it describes. Now we find that that is how we have explained this contradiction that they think is a contradiction, but we find that it is not a contradiction. And I will really say that the scientists themselves, when you find that they talk about the glorious Quran itself, they say that it has a lot of explanation in it. You cannot come just on the glorious Quran and talk about one thing and then you leave another, because of the fact that it is explaining in a very much you can say in a way that some of the people that are knowledgeable in it, they can understand it more. They can understand it more better. And that's why we say that everything which is mentioned in the Quran, we need to believe it. We need to believe it and expect the fact that this glorious Quran, it is the book that is sent by Allah to the humankind, and there is a purpose for sending this Quran, and the purpose is for us to gain guidance from it. We should not be considered this just like a science book, but to find that we have to answer those critics that they are asking us and they are putting on. So we have to understand that is what happened. So I will finish by saying that there are two Quranic passages which is cited by the critic that describe two stages in the history of the universe. Neither passage it explicitly indicates which state comes first, but it is not far-fetched to suppose that there was an original compacted mass that was split asunder, which led to a gaseous smoke stage, from which now the heavens then became differentiated. And inshallah, that is what bi'idhni ta'ala I will answer those critics as bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I want to go now to our next slide. So if you go back to our PowerPoint, we find that case 1, we have explained this and we have finished explaining it. We go now to case 2, and case 2 bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, it's another critic mentioned. In case 2, what it has been saying here, you can see that this same critic, he writes and he talks about what was man created from. What was man created from? As we know that if you can see in the PowerPoint here, first of the verses, it says that the man, he was created from a blood clot. If you go to Surah Iqra, as we know, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, it is one of the verses, that is Surah Al-Alaq. It is one of the verses that was in Makki Surah. And this Makki Surah, what it talks about is the fact that this was the first of the verses. They were revealed on which day? On the day the Prophet ﷺ find that he revealed this as the first verses in the cave Hira. So this is a very important verse that I think alhamdulillah many people they know it and they need to be understanding about it. So that is what they're saying. That's the first thing. And then also another place, it talks about what the man was created from is water, and this is mentioned in Q21, and Q21 it is Surah Al-Anbiya verse number 30. And if you go to Q24, which is Surah Nur chapter number 45, then if you go to Q25, which is Al-Furqan chapter number 25 verse number 54, and also the other verses is saying that the man was created from sounding, that is now a burned clay. And what he is saying here is that here it is mentioned in Q15, which is Surah Al-Hijr verse number 26, and also he's saying that another verse says that the man was created from dust, and dust is mentioned in Surah Al-Imran chapter number 3 verse number 59, and Q30, which is Surah Rum chapter number 30 verse number 20, and also in Q35, which is Surah Fatir chapter number 35 verse number 11. And this same critic he says that the man was created from nothing, and that is mentioned in Q19, which is Surah Maryam chapter number 19 verse number 67, and this is then denied in Q52, and this is now in Surah Tur chapter number 52 verse number 35, and it says that man was he created from earth, as it is mentioned in Q11, which is Surah Al-Hud, chapter number 11, verse number 61. And or is it the man was created from a drop of thickened fluid, which is in Surah An-Nahl, chapter number 16, verse number 4. Or you find that in Q75 also mentioned the same thing, Surah Al-Qiyamah, chapter number 75, verse number 37. That is what this person is mentioning, that which what was man created from. It requires a lengthy explanation, and then I will require people to lend their eyes here so that I can be able to explain it in a better way. So inshallah I'll first start to recite the glorious Quran, and then inshallah I will translate it bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I'll start with Surah Al-Maryam, chapter number 19, verse number 67. It says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أول يذكر الإنسان أنا خلقناه من قبل ولم يك شيئا. This verse of the glorious Quran. The explanation of this verse of the glorious Quran says that doesn't the human being remember that I created him before when he was nothing? Okay, so we find that this criticism, it comes, they say that this verse, it says that the man, they are created from nothing. Now we have to know that when we talk about that, Allah is saying that the human being, he was created when he was nothing, when he was non-existence, but Allah is the one who's created him. Okay, so I will explain it in a later after the other verses I recite them, inshallah, in a more detailed manner. So next verse, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, I will go now to Surah At-Tur, chapter number 52 and verse number 35. It says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون. This verse of the glorious Quran, it is from a very but inshallah I will explain it in a more detailed manner forward. But I got the next verse, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, inshallah, which now we will go to Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter 21, verse number 30, and it says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And this verse, it says, and I created every living thing from water. That is what this verse says in Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter number 21 and verse number 30. So again, you find that this verse is saying that the human being, they are created from water, and what does that mean is the fact that the living thing, they are all of them, they have their creation being for the fact that they are cytoplasm. If you find the nucleus, the cytoplasm, it is consisting 70% of water, and the living thing, whether it is a bean, it's a seed, many of these things, they are the cells that they have, it shows the fact that they are requirement of 70% of water is required for them. And when Allah just mentioned the fact that this now is a part of it, the part of the creation of a human being is the fact that they are created from water, they require water. That is what it meaning also. And then also we go to the next verse, which is Surah An-Nur, chapter number 24 and verse number 45, and here it says, وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَ كُلَّ ذَابَةٍ مِّن مَاءٍ. It says that, and Allah created every crawling creature from water. Again, the fact that they are created from water is mentioned here, showing us the fact that living thing, they require water. And here it is talking about the crawling animals, the crawling creature. like the snakes and the snail and others creatures who find that they are created from water. Next verse is we go to Surah Al-Furqan, chapter number 25, verse number 52, and here it says that وَهُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ مِنَ الْمَاءِ بَشَرًا, and it is who created the human being from water. So again, the fact that the creature of Allah, they are created from water. So who can deny this thing from the fact that the human being again they are created from water. Inshallah, the next verse bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we go to a very interesting surah, which is Surah Al-Hijr, chapter number 15, verse number 26, and here I will have to make you to know some few things before. So it says وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ حَمَّاءٍ مَسْنُونٍ, and indeed I have created the human being out of sounding clay, out of dark, smooth and transmuted. So for the fact that they are created from clay, that is what now they say, the critics. But here there is a word which you have to say, it is sal, and here it is used in this verse. It means clay mixed with sand, and which when you find that when it dried, it makes a sound. That is when it is struck. So you maybe strike like a ball, and here that is now what we get this understanding from the Arabic English lexicon. That is like a dictionary for the Arabic and English, volume 2, page number 1711. So inshallah, we go to the next verse, which is Surah Hud, chapter number 11, verse number 61. هُوَ أَنْشَأَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ. He, Allah, He brought you forth from the earth. Again, for the fact that Allah created us from earth. Earth is like we find that there's dust on the earth, and all of it, the critics now, they say that this verse says that the human beings are created only from the earth, and that is very much interesting from the critics. We got the next verse, which is Surah Rum, chapter number 30, verse number 20, and here it says وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ. Again, in this verse, it says that the human being, they are created from the dust. That is, and among his sign is that he created you from dust. And from this, the critics, they say that that this verse is saying that no, the human being, they are only created from dust, and that's a very interesting thing from this paper. Then we go to Surah Al-Alaq, chapter number 96, verse number 1 and 2, and here we have to say أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق الإنسان من علق. This verse of the glorious Quran here, it says that read in the name of your Lord, who has created and he created the human being from a clinging thing. And here we find that the term here which is used, it is alaq, and it is more accurately translated as a clinging thing rather than a blood clot in this context. And the critics, they come and say that it means blood clot. We don't agree, because this is like a clinging thing. So we have to understand the fact that the Arabic word, it has many things in meaning. For maybe one thing, Allah can have many things, but you find them when talking about Allah in itself in this context. Okay, very much important to know that there are some context you need to understand. Like when it comes to the English words, and there are some of the words in English also, it has a lot of meanings, and we have to understand that not all the English words can be used in all of the context. That's why, when you go to study English in any place, in any school, any environment, you are given maybe a composition and you've been told that this English word, it has many meanings. Can you please explain it to us or put more explanation on it? Because the fact that these are the meaning of this English word in this context, what does that mean? What's the definition of it? That's very much important for us to understand. So in this context, it's meaning a clinging thing. Inshallah, we go to Surah Al-Qiyamah, chapter number 75 and verse number 37. Alam yakun nutfatan min maniyyin yumna. Was he not a drop of fluid that gushed forth? This again is a very interesting word being used, a drop of fluid. Mani, drop of fluid is a semen we are talking about, because of the fact that there is a connection on all of these things. We have to understand that the human being, they were created with the help of Allah Jal, and Allah Jal is the one who created them. Okay, that is very much important, and it's not just money like it is been mentioned here, but this is part of it. Okay, this is part of it. So we go now to Surah An-Nahl, chapter number 16, verse number 4, and here it says, خلق الإنسان من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين. Again, this verse in Surah Nahl, very much interesting, as it again mentioned that Allah created the human being from a drop of fluid, again from a nutfa, and again then behold he becomes an open opponent. But the fact that we need to understand, we should not become opponent in a way that we become enemy to Allah Jal, or we disobey Allah Jal, and that is what is required for us to understand. Now we have mentioned all of the verses in a very interesting manner, so if I've missed anyone, forgive me for that, but I've tried my best, inshallah. For the fact that there is a contradiction for the people who are critics on it, we say that the perception of contradiction here is a result of confusion between the metaphysics, chemistry and biology, and between the different stages of the process of biological creation. And you have to understand that when we are talking about creation, it is not involve only one thing. It involves many stages. When it comes to creation of a human being, it is coming from the womb of the mother, not only from the womb of the mother, but even at the time when there is an intimate relationship between the husband and wife, you find that there is an intention between the husband and wife to get a child. And how do they get a child? They cannot just get a child without any contact between the husband and the wife. There should be contact. There should be contact between the husband and wife in a way that has been taught to us. That is best. When there is contact, we know, alhamdulillah, that there is a sexual intercourse that happens, and in that way we find that there is now the seminal fluid coming from the part of the man, and from the women they have also their zygote. It is developed, and the story is long in here, but we don't want to mention all of the processes here, as it involves many stages. So for the fact that we need to understand that here they have a confusion in that, and we have to understand that the first two verses here that I am talking about here, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, about Surah Maryam, if you go back in chapter number 19 verse number 67, and Surah Tur chapter number 52 and verse number 35, these first two verses, they are dealing with the creation in the metaphysical terms. As you can see that in the first verse here, Allah reminds the human beings that He created them and all of the creation ultimately from nothing, which is one of His most sublime attributes. And in his second verse, he poses a rhetorical question to highlight the untenable implication of atheism, that if you deny the existence of God, then do you believe that nothingness it brought you into existence? There's a question for you that we need to understand, that therefore there is no contradiction between these two verses as we are seeing them. The critics are saying that there is a contradiction in that, but we find that there's no any contradiction in it. But the fact that Allah is discussing, is telling the human beings the fact that if you are that Allah is the one who created you, Allah is the creator, Al-Khaliq, the word very much important here to be known. And when it comes to creator, Allah created you from nothing. You are nothing, you are nobody, but He created you now as a person, as a human being, maybe a man or a woman. But Allah is the one who created you from nothing, And now that's here comes the fact that the zero factor come here. When you have zero, this is nothing. But how can we get one in order to add up to that zero? You have to maybe to add to it in order to get a one, so that you can be getting something. You have zero money, you have no money, you have zero. You have nothing, but where do you get the money? Against the factor that how did you get the money in order to become something? So here again the fact that you have to understand that Allah mentioned the fact that you are nothing, and He, Allah, is the one who created you from nothing. We go ahead bi'idhnillahi ta'ala to explain the other verses. We find that the next three verses that inshallah we had talked on about, here again we go back to the verses here. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Here in Surah Al-Anbiya chapter 20 verse number 30, and also وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَ كُلَّ ذَابَاتٍ مِنْ مَاءٍ. And again in Surah An-Nur chapter 24 verse number 45, and also وَهُوَ الَّذِينَ خَلَقَ مِنَ الْمَاءِ بَشَرٍ. Surah Al-Furqan chapter number 25 verse number 54. These three verses bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, when you see in itself, they are talking about the fact that all living creatures, including even those that are crawling and the human beings, they are created from water. And this is the biological fact that no one denies, that all living creatures, they have water-based physiology. In the fact that their cytoplasm, it requires water. Without water they cannot live, and their cells, they require a lot of water. And without the fact that they don't have water, it becomes a trouble. Then we come to the next verses, which talks about the fact that all of the human beings, they are created from dust. That is the next three verses. If you go to Surah chapter number 15 verse number 10, also other is that they created from the drop of fluid, another was created from the drop of fluid, again bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, all in Surah Al-Alaq chapter number 96 verse number 1 2, and then other is Surah Al-Qiyamah chapter number 75 verse number 37, and the other is Surah Al-Nahl chapter number 16 verse number 4. These verses they refer to the biological aspects of human creation. This word nutfa, which is mentioned here, it is commonly used to refer to the male seminal fluid that you are talking about here, but it is also linguistically possible to use it to refer to the female reproductive fluids. And the fertilized zygote, as we mentioned here, it is referred to in the Quran as nutfa amshaj, and that is a mingled fluid. And this you can see also in Surah Al-Insan chapter number 76 verse number 2, where you find that there is a wonderful subtlety in this expression that puzzled early commentators, that the word nutfa is a singular noun while amshaj, it is an adjective that modifies it, and it is a plural. Normally the adjective, it must agree with the noun. It modifies in number, in gender, and also in the case. So if you go to Surah Al-Insan, so let us go to Surah Al-Insan. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فجعلناه سميعا بصير. In this, you can see in these verses, there is a word nutfatin amshaj, very important wording here, and that is what you are saying here. The fact that Allah mentions that verily we have created a man from this nutfatin amshaj, and in order now to try him, so we made him the hearer and the seer. For the fact that Allah when He created the man, He created the man from that nutfa mashal. Here is what we are talking about, the fact that this thing, we have a nutfa, the singular noun, and the amshaj is adjective that modifies it, and the plural normally this. It created the fact that there is a gender and case here. It's a gender and case here. And for the fact that we have to understand that this fertilized zygote, which is referred to in the Quran as nutfa amshaj, is a fertilized zygote, is a mingled things are already being done, and it's a mingled fluid, okay? And we find that there's a hadith which that word nutfa is mentioned. So you have to understand nutfa amshaj in Surah Al-Insan, chapter number 76, verse number 2. It means a mingled fluid. It means a fertilized zygote. It means a fertilized zygote. Nutfa amshaj means what? Fertilized zygote. So I'm making us to understand for the fact that when you're asked anywhere, you find that you need to know about it, and you find that there's a hadith also there, that word nutfa is explicitly used, and this refers to the fluid of the women. And it was reported that the Prophet ﷺ was asked from what the human being was created, and that he replied when he was saying that min nutfatin rijal, and very much important that he is created from both the nutfa of the man, the nutfa of the woman. وَمِن نُطْفَةٍ مَرَى. See, that is what the Prophet is saying, that the fact that when this human being is created from both the nutfa of the man and from the nutfa of the women, okay? And that is very much important for us to know and to understand. As we know that there is after fertilization, that embryo, it implants itself in the uterine wall, and it is at this stage that is called an alaq, as it is used in that Arabic. And we have to understand the fact that nutfa is a single entity after fertilization, but its chromosomes, they are half from the father and half from the mother, and therefore from the scientific point of view, this amshaj, it is entirely accurate a plural, as a plural adjective modifying the singular nutfa, which is really a multifaceted single entity. And you can see that in Quran and Modern Science Correlation Study, page 27 to 29. And this hadith that we talked about here, it is in Musnad Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala, hadith number 4208. And this, we find that the isnad, it has its weakness, and in it due to the presence of Al-Hussein ibn Al-Hasan Al-Fazari, who was truthful but he was prone to mistakes. And you can see that in Taqrib at-Tahdib in page 166 in that hadith number 1317. This part of the hadith is supported by the hadith of Abdullah ibn Salam reported by Al-Bukhari, which mentioned that if the fluid of the woman, ma al-marah, supersedes the fluid of the man, then the child will resemble the mother. And that is very much interesting in Sahih al-Bukhari, volume number 5, page number 189 to 190, hadith number 275. You can go and check it on here. For the fact that this as we find that after fertilization that embryo implants itself in the uterine wall, it's at this stage that is called alaq in Arabic, and you can go and read about it more in the Quran and Modern Science in Correlation Study, page number 31. We find that there is no contradiction here between any of these verses, alhamdulillahi. And very much important for us to know the fact that we have finished and we have made the people understand also case number 2, and we got to the last slide, and bidna ta'ala inshallah I will just say jazakallah khair, and may Allah's Jal He accept it from all of us. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Inshallah we have to remember that we are now going to our last session, and we have taken a lot of your time bidna ta'ala inshallah. So last session will not be a very big one. I'll try to make it small bidna ta'ala, because there is nothing more to talk about in the last part bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and that's why I'll finish this by saying that let us be here inshallah. I'll just give you maybe about 10 minutes break, alhamdulillah, shukla. Then the last lesson will be very much, even 30 minutes will be enough for us, so that now I can take a question session in an easier way bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I'll finish this by saying subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.